Hello everyone. So as per my last Twitter update, I'll just go over Bitcoin a little bit and then we'll look into altcoins, right? So on the lower time frames, we had this kind of three drives 2 days ago. Okay. So you have this kind of price action, then you have a short bounce, and then a retest of a very significant level that we talked about, which was around the 64,000 level, right? Price rejected from there, moved down below. Yesterday was a very heavy trending day and we had a double distribution. So we had this, then we had a gap, and then we had this. Okay. So you can either look at it from a double distribution perspective, like this is one, this is the other. So you want, like, if this occurs, you expect price to ping pong between these levels, which is exactly what happened, right? And this is why in my last Twitter update, especially after confirming with Orderflow, I told you guys that we had these three drives set up. We had a daily open move here. We were building value here. And this is around where I longed. This was my first TP, and then my trailing stop loss got hit around here because the NPOC was there, okay? But one thing that we absolutely cannot ignore is that this is the value area of the day, and we're breaking down right as US session is ending, right? So this is an NPOC from previous, I think our previous move up, which we left behind. So it's going to be really pivotal, right? The next couple of days. If you just try and remove the noise, yeah, this is from our move up. So this NPOC is still there. And that's something that you have to keep in mind. Apart from that, let's just give me a second to just remove all of this noise here. And then even the previous day value area levels, these are all just insignificant, okay? This green box, the reason I was looking for it for an initial bounce yesterday was because it was the 0.75 fib from our entire move up. So this entire swing from 58 all the way up to 66 point something was led by that. And now you see this nasty rejection. Even if we look at the trends, EMA tells you, and this is especially, we shorted this. We shorted this August sweep, and then I personally closed it somewhere around the Q3 open, but then I reshorted around here because this was very obvious. Once you lose the lower time frame EMA, it's pretty obvious that you're going to the higher time frame EMA, and this usually happens pretty quickly, right? Once we came back here, I was expecting price to do some sort of a reclaim of this EMA because this is now curling down, right? So if this flattens out and then curls down and price does something like this is a very good trigger to long. We didn't get that. We're probably heading lower, in my opinion. I'll discuss flows with you for a second, but I'll just let you know my areas of interest first, okay? First is obviously where we're at right now, but I don't think this is going to hold because it did not hold yesterday, right? What I want price to do is sweep some of the lows, but not all of the lows, okay? So this move up, this is actually pretty parabolic. And if you take some sort of curve here, you'll understand what I'm talking about. So if you actually look at this move up that we had, it's actually pretty parabolic, okay? Yeah. So if we just extend this parabola, right, you'll see that you can almost fit a very sharp curve for all of these moves, okay? This is not healthy. And this is why once we swept August high, we were really bearish. Now, these are pretty consistent, sharp lows, and this is a vicious uptrend. So what you want to see, if you are a bull in Q4, is price to take some of these. So you want price to take this low and perhaps even this low, but leave these. And if we do that, then we're really bullish. Because again, this is still a very important area of consolidation, and this is close to important volume levels from our swing earlier. So if we just take this as a swing, you'll see what I'm talking about. Look at this high volume node here. This immediately pops out to me because it's at the value area low. So if you look at this low, it's at the value area low. And it's like there's a lot of price action here that means a lot, right? So my initial plan, as you know, if you've been following, is I want to get long as close to 59, like between 59 and 58, right? I want to see price. This is not like, if we don't hold this, once we don't hold this, then this becomes slightly irrelevant. I want price to come to our high volume node around here, maybe take these lows, So I want price to come down here, take the lows, rebound sharp from this, and then reclaim some structure here. Okay, and then if you look at this kind of a trend line break here, this will be a nice retest of that. So I want something like that happening for Bitcoin. In terms of flows, well, we can dive deep into it, but I can just tell you that it's not looking good. There's a lot of spot de-risking happening. In fact, I'll just show you 1 second. Here we are. So in terms of order flow, I've been posting a lot of DOM charts on the group. So if you look at all of our price action that unwidened, so we had this kind of a move up, and then we're just kind of slow chopping down. I wouldn't call this a vicious dump, but you've seen a lot of spot being distributed here. This, especially yesterday, was the power hour buying from Coinbase, and it had no significant impact on price, which tells you that there's a lot of ask liquidity just quoting price down. So what's happening on Binance, and I keep sharing this as and when it happens, it's kind of hard to look at it once it's already happened, but the Binance seller is basically just using spot and walking price down. So the moment we come down here, there's an ask wall here, and it just keeps on going, right? And the same thing happened on our way up, which is why I was kind of bearish from 64,000, which was too early, because somebody was moving price up on spot and then filling large short orders at the highs. And I believe that something of the same sort will happen right now. We just don't know at what price it will happen. That's why we have our levels. I already told you that I want to look for it around 59K and possibly 57K, somewhere in that range. And once we get there, I want to see exactly what we saw at the top and exactly what we've seen at the 52.5K bottom, which is why we were able to buy the 53K level and ride it up all the way up, right? So we want to see someone bidding on spot, and then once price gets to critical levels, for example, on the 15-minute chart, this is like an important SR level, right? So if you see the moment price gets here, spot buyers had some sort of an aggression into the move up, but then immediately when the bids kind of got pulled, we immediately rejected. So there's no aggression from spot buyers right now, which is what we call taker spot bid. Okay, so once we get that, especially on the 15-minute or the 5-minute time frames, that tells you that we're close to a bottom. Now, I believe that Bitcoin will go somewhere between 57 and 59K. Beyond that, I will have to look at the flows and tell you what happens. For altcoins, I'm expecting at least a 10 to 20% correction, depending on how strong the altcoin is. In fact, contrary to popular belief, I believe the coins that have been strong this entire way up usually attract a lot of leverage. So let's look at a few altcoin charts, and I'll tell you my levels for all of them. So if we're going to talk about altcoins, we have to talk about the index, which is others. It's basically every altcoin that's not in the top 10 by market cap. It doesn't really include every single altcoin. I think they have some sort of filter for the top 200 coins or the top 300 coins. But regardless of what it includes, it's still a good proxy for where the altcoin market is going. So the first time that we actually showed interest here, right? So there were a lot of people who were kind of bullish on others, like some really smart guys, around the 170, 180 mark. But the only time that I actually got interested was towards the middle of September, when we had already confirmed the 53K bottom on Bitcoin, and then we had this sort of retest in this trend, all right? So flipping this trend and then moving past the August 25th top is actually really bullish. And the reason is kind of because altcoins have been down only for about 2 quarters. So it's like a multi-quarter downtrend for most altcoins. In that case, unless and until we do something like we did in early June, which is where we distributed above the trend and then we fell back down, I don't think there's a case to be made for price to really fall back down. Now, I'm perfectly fine with the bottom scenario being in play, where we come down and sweep 170 again and move up, but I really don't think that's happening right now. What I think will happen is the squiggle that we initially drew out before the breakout, retest the trend, and also this sort of demand zone. The reason I'm using SR here is because you can, if you actually go to the altcoins, like this is just altcoin market caps, right? So you can easily just treat it as support resistance and demand supply. So you can say that, okay, this is a demand zone, price is retesting, and then we can just move up from here, right? Now, as long as we hold this trend, and then the real party starts when we actually break through. So if you actually break through this high, this is when the real party starts. Because if altcoins reach prior levels, like we're reaching 368, right? And 368 billion from current prices is around 75% higher from here. And my primary bet is that alt dispersion continues to increase, which means that altcoins which have really high inflationary values, they continue to trend downwards. And some new altcoins, they take up all of the market share. So if the entire altcoin market moves up, let's say 100% in this new leg of the bull market, and there's a lot of alt dispersion, because out of a potentially 10,000 altcoins, there's only 100 that are actually going to last, right? Most of altcoins are just vapor. In that case, if we're just taking that 10% capital efficiency ratio, that means that most of your altcoins can actually 10x from where they are at current prices, right? And that's actually what I expect for some of these. Now, let's just dive into some altcoins. I'll start with TIA. This is the future is not modular. I kind of coined that term, and this is a shitcoin. Now, if you are following the Telegram group, I'm actually short on TIA right now. And the first time I actually shorted it was in May, after we had that May 1st bottom. And then this is when I actually shorted it around $10 or $11. I kept on shorting it till we reached this daily level. And then we had a few shorts here just out of fun from around 7.5 to $6. And then I've been out of trading TIA since $4.5. The reason I'm short again is because if you follow up on the fundamentals, there's been a lot of insider activity on the token, which means that the Celestia team is extremely shady. And the moment we broke through these highs, I've actually been shorting. So this June low and this daily level here, I was underwater for a short time, but then I've been short, like my average short entry on my swing account is around 6.5, 6.4, I think. And I am not covering my short anytime soon. This shit is going to zero. Celestia will probably die by my hands, The reason is actually pretty simple. Now, you see price moving up and you see some negative funding, and you feel like, okay, there's a lot of shorters here, we're going to squeeze the shorts and we're going to keep moving up. Well, that's not really the case here, is it? Because the team sold tokens sometime in May and June, and at prices that were really attractive then. So, price was around $10, $11 when the insiders, they sold their locked tokens for a price of $7.5. And now price is at $4.8, and now they're releasing news that, okay, there was a sale made. Now, what this makes you think is the people are buying a token for $7.5 when the current market price is $6.5. This kind of makes you long biased, right? But this is actually a previous sale that was reported, and then this has a lot of unlocks coming into October as well. So when the unlocks actually happen is when a lot of people will short. But, we're losing daily trend here. I'm short since 6.5. I'm targeting the lows, and that's probably where I'll TP. Yeah. And I'll close half by the time the unlocks actually happen. So, yeah, this is pretty much it. We came back to the bottom. We had this sort of 3-tap range here. So you had this 1-tap, 2-tap, and then this kind of deviation lows. And the moment we broke through these highs, a lot of people were really bullish. In fact, TIA is the most requested altcoin when I sent out the update for the altcoin request. So TIA was number 1 on that list. And the moment I saw so many people are requesting me to make an update on TIA, I actually shorted more. So I have a very oversized, like $500,000 short open on this coin. Okay. And I'm in a lot of profit right now. So either way, you see open interest moving up like this, it doesn't necessarily mean that people are shorting uncollateralized capital. What that essentially means is, let's say you bought some unlocked tokens, you want to hedge that because your unlock is happening later. So you just short it on the open market. That's why the higher price goes, the more you see shorters step into the market. This is not spot buying, okay? So this is just something, it's a nice example that you have to be aware of. And just whenever you want to long TIA, just long something else. And whenever you want to short something else, just short TIA. at least for the foreseeable future. The future is not modular. Okay. Now let's move on to a coin that's really strong recently, Sui. So this, if as per my Twitter post, this red zone is where I initially wanted to short it. I never did. I just thought that will be a local top. You do not short a coin that is up since the bottom. Sui is up 300%. Okay, you do not short coins like this. Regardless of what happens, regardless of your personal bias, you don't short coins like this. Now, I was expecting some sort of a resistance from this red level, and that's basically because we have supply here, and then there's also a very strong psychological $2 level above. So usually when price has these levels, we don't really respect them. So this is like the $2 level and strong resistance here. So usually we front run them, and then when we actually go through them, we burst through. So I'm expecting something like this, where we retest the golden pocket, we retest this, and as long as we don't break back below, right? If we break back below, then I'm a buyer at this VWAP from all-time highs and also daily trend, but I don't think price goes back down till here, right? If it does, if we get an easy retest, I'll probably not be buying. But if we sweep these lows, we reach these levels, somewhere around 1.6 or so, so you want price to deviate this level, also go to the golden pocket, and then move back above for an easy long on Sui. I don't really have any selective opinions about it. I just think that, there's a lot of spot buying on this coin, by the way. So if I actually go to the order flow chart for it, what you'll realize is funding has been pretty decent the entire way up, and open interest has actually been pretty neutral. So if we take the Pico low on 5th or 6th August, price is up 354%. Open interest is only up like 260%. Now, this is a very bullish sign. The reason is that there's a lot of spot buying interest on this coin. Now, I do have some inside info that the foundation is buying their own coins, but that really doesn't matter because once price reaches these levels, reflexivity just kicks in, right? So if I'm actually going to talk to you about some kind of market structure about what coins you want to long, this is one of the best examples. Because if you look at their daily ranges, this was the daily range, right? You can take this as a daily range or perhaps as a lower time frame downtrend. So the moment we entered Q2 in April, the coin has been downtrending, and then we had this sort of blast up. So this is where I initially longed a little bit. I took profit too early, but that really doesn't matter. We'll just get it on the retest. So this kind of trend line break, right? And then we retest. And then we have this support level retest. This is perfect long territory. So if this occurs on other coins, because this is your summer price action, there's so many people that got shaken out here. This is a 70-90% move down. So many people got shaken out here. This coin does not have significant unlocks. You broke this downtrend, blast through the downtrend, especially on high volume. So if you look at volume delta, one second. Yeah. So if you look at the volume spike here, we had an insane amount of volume delta pushing price up over this downtrend, over this resistance, over this horizontal support resistance level. Then price ranged a little bit and we kept rejecting from this VWAP from all-time high. The moment we get here, this means you've now had multiple confirmations and you want to target the highs. Okay. So if this kind of setup ever occurs on any other coin, especially with funding moving the way that we talked about and open interest not increasing a lot, you want to long those coins. Now, say another very good example. I actually want to start on the weekly for this. So based on the September close, right? Yeah. If we look at September close, this is another coin that you actually want to be bullish on. So you have a bullish engulfing candle, and now a lot of people don't pay too much attention to it, but sorry, yeah, if you look at this level, we defended the previous wick low, we just wick below, and then we had a huge bullish engulfing candle. So any sort of pullback right now is actually nothing to worry about as well, right? You just want to make sure that you're in dip buying modes when it actually comes, right? So this level here, in my opinion, is something that's really significant, right? In fact, let's just mark it out for me as well. right? And then you go on the weekly. Now that monthly high from July is really important, because that after that wick high from July, August, we're pushing up now, and then any kind of retest into this territory, as long as this weekly is not a bearish engulfing candle that sends us below this level, I'll be a buyer around these levels, because it's the same story as we talked about on SUI. You have this sort of sideways consolidation range, and now price is just retesting it before we move back up. Okay, and I kind of talked about this in my Twitter thread recently, where a lot of people are now getting bearish because October, like we had an October dump. I just think that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Because if you think about it, right, October was a highly anticipated month. There were a lot of leveraged buys in the weekend leading up to the quarterly open. And in fact, seasonality is not on the side of the bulls, because in election years, October is actually kind of bearish. It starts out bearish, and then November and post elections is when the markets really rally. So if you just look at October statistics and say that, okay, the market's going to move up, it just makes no sense to me. Okay, so if we dump on monthly open like we have right now, and then we move back above monthly open, you really want to long that kind of move. Okay, that's some of the most bullish things that can occur. So essentially, Bitcoin and altcoins, they can move down 20%, even like 30%, and then still close October green. Okay, so as long as I don't get the signal from Bitcoin, I'm just not going to be taking leverage position on altcoins. But you can clearly see the setup that's in front of you, right? So you have this sort of downtrend. You can go down a few time frames. You can look at this downtrend here. Easy long, break back above, retest. Boom. So retest here is like 12% more. So this is around the same range that I expect right now from all altcoins. I think that we go down around 10 to 20%, depending on where the altcoin is right now. And the more strength it shows, the better. So if altcoins are still not cracking, but I feel like most of these coins, if they were leading earlier, they'll probably end up kind of puking a little bit. And the reason is that there's a lot of positioning built up on these coins. So if you see how important this SR level is, and don't expect this to be tested clearly, but the only thing that will make me bearish on these coins is if we break back below this line, do an underside retest, and then move back below. Okay? Because I'm pretty sure if you look at volume nodes, you rejected from a high volume node, you're moving back to a high volume node. Now, here is where you expect a spring or a bounce for price to move back up and then long. Okay? There's really not much else to it. And every single altcoin will have the exact same setup. Same for Aave actually. Let me just set up the trend exactly at daily trend right now. So most altcoins that have been really bullish will have this kind of a setup, right? You have your summer ranging price action. This usually starts in quarter 2 or April for most coins. And this is your range. You move back above range and then you're retesting some lows. And Aave is actually one coin that's actually in a really sharp uptrend. The reason I was shorting it for a little while is because we had this 1 drive, 2 drive, 3 drive setup, and then we broke down below this high. So you kind of want to short that back down. But in terms of a higher time frame bias, since this has moved up so viciously, if you clean up these lows, which is like really down below, so my spot entry on Aave is around 88. But if we get to a situation where these are cleaned up, it means that you're really bearish. The reason is simple: no easy sweeps, right? What you want to see here is we're at daily trend. So if we look at some kind of trend, yeah. So you're at the lower time frame daily trend. What you want this to do is break a little bit back below, but not go all the way to the higher time frame trend, which is the 200 EMA. And then you want price to sweep immediate local lows. You sweep and move back up. Okay, so you clear out this price action, but you hold this range and this volume that you've built up in this range. If we actually break down below, this is the daily chart. So if you go to the 4-hour or perhaps even the 1-hour chart, if we break back below this EMA and then we retest, you can expect price to go down till here. Okay, You don't want this bearish retest. What you want is for EMAs to curl back down and price to reclaim it on the way up, okay? A lot of these altcoin charts are probably the same. SDX, I was long. I got stopped out on my latest attempt, flirting with daily trend and daily EMAs with the same kind of setup, okay? Golden pocket is something that I expect to get reached. So you had a market structure break on SDX. So this is basically what a market structure break is, right? So you had a market structure break, and then we have this demand zone formed here, and then we have these trend lines. So this downtrend was broken, the new downtrend was broken. We can take this as our demand zone, right? It doesn't have to be respected completely, but this is where we had the sweep, right? So once you sweep into a demand zone like this, the long trigger, because like you could have long this, right? But since Bitcoin is where it is right now, what I particularly want to see, especially on a coin that is completely dependent on Bitcoin, right? STX is a BTX beta. You have to keep these things in mind. So once we come back below, we sweep that, then you have some sort of long trigger. Again, like this is, 5% move. If we come back all the way deep into retesting this, it's around 11% move. So a lot is dependent on Bitcoin right now, especially for some of these altcoins, right? Yeah. So if you look at open interest, we had this very sharp increase in open interest. Funding's pretty decent. If you compare this to the euphoria during February and March, it's nothing like it, right? So you want to clean, again, same concept, vicious little uptrend. You want to clean some lows, which coincides with our 10% or down move here. So some coins you want to go down 10, 20%, some coins you want to go down even more, okay? So this sweep, clean out some lows, don't clean out every low, right? And then move back up. If we don't have a spring, like you don't want price to break down and keep ranging. That means that longs and shorts are built up on either side again. And then if you want to move up, you want price to go down and then sweep up. And the more times you form this horizontal range, right? Price comes back down, forms horizontal range, price comes back down. The more times you do it, it's just a slow bleed on the higher time frames, right? So that is not something that you can long if price is just slow bleeding down. Just like even though this is a bearish setup, you can't short for that 10% down because this is a slow bleed up on the higher time frames. So you can't really take a swing long. You have to take scalps. So if you clean up some of these lows and defend this, it's really bullish. If you come back down below, then you want price to range and then you want to reclaim. But unless you take this absolute pico low on 6th August, there's really no point in price doing this at one of these lows. And that's just based on price action intuition because open interest is already bleeding lower. So if all of this OI is decimated, a lot of people think of OI as just leverage. It's not, right? Open interest is just it represents a perpetual position getting open. It doesn't mean that there's leverage here. All of this longs, right? This long open interest is around 67% increase in dollar terms. It coincides with probably $30 million of open interest. It doesn't have to be leverage positions. It doesn't mean that these guys are up on 10, 20x leverage. It just means that these guys can have millions of dollars and just open $100,000 in per positions because they want to diversify. And this is a liquid market. I do that myself, right? So don't fall into the trap of all of this leverage has to be cleaned out. If all of this leverage has to be cleaned out, it basically means that people lose interest in this asset, right? If every single person who has started buying altcoins since the 6th August or 6th September or 5th September low, if every single person stops trading altcoins, who's going to buy? Like, if you want to be a buyer, you want to know that other people are buying after you. And once they've been burned hard, they're just not going to do that, right? Now, Tau is another interesting coin because this was one of the leaders in the rally, and then I've just been shorting it down like my personal little bitch from 3-day and HVN. So this is a high volume node. This is a 3 days supply, and we swept the most important load today. But given where Bitcoin, usually I would try and long this, but given where Bitcoin is, I really don't think that's a good idea. You can take this, like you could have taken this scalp long, right? the bottom of the range, you could have taken this scalp long, tried to target 580s. But given where Bitcoin is and given where open interest for Tau is, it's just not the right play. So I've been shorting Tau a couple of times. Most recently, it was around these highs, and then I closed on this sweep, and then I shorted it again. I think my higher time frame target might be a little too high, right? So this is like a 6-8% move. So this is where I expect price to be at. Okay, I don't think it's going to come to 366 or so. If we are actually bullish in October, and if we want October, you don't want price to revisit these lows. If you do, you can actually attempt a small long, you can place limits around this level. And then I think if we do come here, we have at least a small bounce, but then I think eventually you just go lower. And the reason for that is the amount of open interest that will be unwound if price actually trades like 30% lower. The amount of OI will be decimated. You want this price action to mean something because you burst through that price action. This is what I call a brute force pattern. So this was supposed to be supply. So many people are trapped here. Price ranged below for a long time, and a lot of people must have bag held. And what you see here is price just blasting through it, and we have very sharp and very short pullbacks. So once price comes back in this area, you want to see the buyers that did this, that are responsible for this vertical price action. You can call this vertical accumulation. You want them to step back in, because if we close back below 570, we are going straight to 357 because there's no interest here. There's no volume here to protect us. Okay. So if you're bullish, you want to see a 10 to 15% pullback, and then you want to see a quick reclaim. And this time we break this, right? And then what other asset can we cover? I'll take some more requests from you guys next time, all right? I'm actually still pretty unwell. Now, I've been short Solana for a while. My initial entry was 160s, which I closed. I wanted to short at 165, if you remember my last stream, but I didn't get the opportunity, so I just had to settle for shorting below these levels. And now we're at range POC. I expect price to at least reach low 130s, right? So I've been shorting this. So this is like a really massive short for me because of Solana emissions. So I'm expecting price to give me my level around 136, 137, is it? Yeah. So this is where I have my first take profit level. And then if you look at this volume and this swing, if you're bullish, you want price to kind of range around here, maybe even slow bleed, and then gradually build a base for higher. Because if we go to 123 again, if you look at this massive range that we have, it's kind of hard to imagine if price keeps on holding that level. Okay. So yeah, we can do something like this, but I wouldn't really bet on it. So you want price to come down here, move a little bit, and then reclaim important volume levels. There's not really much to say for Solana. A lot of people really bullish on it. I am not, as you already know. There's a lot of emissions for it, and it's just been kind of lower highs for a while and then sweep the lows. So there's a lot of demand below 120, and as you can see from the volume profile, we spent a lot of volume deviating above the range, but not so much below the range. And then you have this sort of price action here. So even if everything goes to Hades, if Bitcoin goes to fucking 45k, right? I don't think Solana breaks these lows. Like, this is the December consolidation. So even if Bitcoin goes below the December consolidation, I don't think Solana does. And the reason is pretty simple. Like, there's a lot of unlocked hedges that will come out at that point, because a lot of people are buying locked Solana and then they're hedging on the open market. So then tokens have some selling pressure, right? Now that is offset by the meme coin buyers who denominate their net worth in Solana, in which case they just hold spot sol all the time. So if they're not holding meme coins, they hold spot sol. So because of those reasons, I feel like, and yeah, also their unlock price is around $100, I think. So if we move back below that, they have no reason to keep shorting. So that's why I feel like any sort of dip here, and this is like worst case scenario, guys. Like, my base expectation is price comes down till maybe 130s, 125 to 130. and then we just keep moving up, right? October is here, Q4 is here, enjoy your fucking bull market. That being said, I'm actually pretty tired by now, so I'll see you in the next video. I'll take more requests from you guys, I promise, and let's make some money, guys. See you in the next one.